Welcome to CEO Corner. My name is Sarah McGrath, partner in 360 Search Recruitment Services across Ireland and the UK, and I work with CEOs and senior executives helping them find their next career move and building their teams. I would like to welcome our next guest, Dónal Clancy, CEO of Laya Healthcare. Dónal has led Laya Healthcare through periods of transformational change over the last 25 years. In 2011, Dónal steered the business through a management-led buyout, culminating in Laya Healthcare and its subsequent partnership with global insurer AIG in 2015. Laya Health Insurance holds 600,000 members of private health insurance and has a 26% market share. Before taking on his role as CEO of Laya Healthcare, Dónal worked with Bupa in Ireland and held the roles of Director of Customer Service, IT Director and Operations Director. He also served in Bupa in the UK as Director of Customer Service and Operations. Dónal, in his spare time, is a talented artist and enjoys kayaking and comes with an abundance of experience and character. We are thrilled that Dónal has agreed to take part in CEO Corner for a very rare public appearance. Dónal, welcome to CEO Corner.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sarah, for having me.
So you have lived through several changes within your business, with Bupa as a greenfield and then to Quinn Healthcare and the culmination of Laya, and more recently the Laya Healthcare, the acquisition by AIG in 2015. So that's an impressive tenure. I'd love to learn about your story behind that and your journey and kind of what brought you to this.
Well, to be honest, when I start off this, I always think earlier than that. I always give my mother the credit for what I've become in a way. We started off, my mother had a hairdressing business and we spent a lot of time in the hairdressing salon. And we always call it saloon, but it seems the right word is salon. And really from that forward, working in the bar, I think that gave me some ideas about business and acumen for that. And I was lucky enough then to end up doing computer science, and two of them together got me here, really. From the early times, I was never religious about what I had to do. I didn't have a massive career plan. Yeah. I always thought I'd be somewhere in 3 or 5 years, but I never got there. I always either did it earlier or just got forgotten about one or the other. But I always had that vision that something would happen. And with regards to Bupa and what happened, a lot of it was fortuitous and being at the right place at the right time, having good people around me, and being given the opportunities and taking them. One thing I seem to relish in is crisis. So I've had loads of crises. You talk about Quinn Healthcare there, you talk about Bupa when they decided to leave the market. Those crises turned out to be opportunities for me. So, that was, I think the sum of my journey seems to go, I don't want to say from crisis to crisis, but a lot of things were opportunities, as is this pandemic. It's turned out to be an opportunity, and for some people it has been, a realization that you can work from home. There's been a lot of good things come out of it, along with the absolute terrible things that happened and the impact it has people as well. But I think my journey is a lot of, I suppose, navigating my way through my career, crisis followed by opportunity. That seemed to be what happened. You have over 500 staff now within your team, and I can speak from experience that you also have a senior management team that holds you in the highest regard, which is excellent. Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
How do you motivate and retain and lead teams, people that have come with you through your career?
Well, first of all, I think I believe that those people are better than me in the first instance. They really are. I have a really great team, and I've been lucky enough that, the people around me have always managed to hire people who know what they're doing, and for want of a better way of putting it, have made me look good. They've really empowered me to do the right thing. But I think there's a lot of different things coming to my head when you ask that question. I think of trust. I do trust people. Their saying is that people have to earn trust. I don't believe that. It's the other way around. I think you start by trusting people. And I rarely left down. people really, if you ask somebody to perform or come forward with ideas and give them the opportunities, they'd grab them. Generally, it comes true, rarely left down.
Yeah, good. And what is the best or the most standout mentoring advice that you've had throughout your career that sort of resonates with you now still?
I have a lot of particular expressions that I actually acquired from other people, but one of them is don't waste a crisis. You might have picked that up already. And the other one is eat an elephant one bite at a time. You know, when you hear this massive task, and I don't want it to sound like arrogance, I believe it can be overcome if you sit down, work out with these great people around you. You can work out what bit of the elephant you have to eat and how you can make progress. Even if you believe you can never eat the elephant, you can make progress into it. So I actually think that's one of the better pieces of advice I have, you know, in my head. You know, take it easy, let's work out what we have to do and put them in some sort of order, break it down. In a way, it probably goes back to the mathematical base and first principles, really, but eating the elephant one bite at a time is what I'd say for that one.
Yeah, bite-sized chunks. I think you can nearly have, you know, people that are, oh no, mayhem in a crisis, and then people that come along, you know, that are quite methodical in how they approach it and actually see the opportunity in it. For you, what are the best and, I don't want to say worst, but least favourite parts of being a CEO and a business leader?
The first one about being the best, that's interesting. The best parts, you know, we talked about the team and putting the team around you. Sometimes the worst part is having nearly to let people down in a way because they're not part of that team, and that is a tough part of it. I'm going to go to negatives first. The other thing is you do get the crisis come at you all the time. But I have to say experience has taught me exactly back to that. You break it down and you say, maybe this is an opportunity, not a crisis, and work your way through that. On the positive side, the best bits are, you know, your ability to communicate, make your strategy, and you have a team together who formulate your strategy as a company, and see that come to fruition is fantastic with those team around you that you've built up, this structure that followed that strategy into place. I believe it'll never come to fruition in its entirety because the new strategy has to be evolving all the time, but at least you see it come forward, you see this continuum happening. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Getting a call on a Christmas night from a particular department in the public service telling you stuff is not the nicest part of it. And those calls do come through from time to time. Not always on Christmas night, but that has happened.
Yeah, nearly like a reactive part. Yeah. And I think as well, you know, I definitely enjoy about running a business is seeing people actually embrace an opportunity as well and kind of run with it, you know, and develop and become excellent in their own right.
Well, that's back to your earlier question about encouraging people and empowering them and giving them the chance to get on with it, you know. Yeah. So they won't let you down.
No. And I work with CEOs and helping them build out their teams and, you know, various levels. And I guess maybe it's more of a scenario situation for you. So potentially you have two people at final round and they have a similar skill set. You know, what is the defining criteria for you and how would you pick apart somebody in terms of the characteristics or, you know, something that stands out for you for two kind of level people?
Well, I'm assuming if they got to me in the first instance, they're probably qualified and better qualified for the role than I would be, or you know, they're appropriately qualified anyway. And after that, it would come down to communication. So they have a set of values. We are very simple in our values. You know, we're fair, we're grounded, we're innovative, and we care. It's that simple. So you're looking for somebody who can communicate and get that across and understand their own motivations with those values. It wouldn't be rocket science. I would be more inclined to have a cup of coffee to make that decision than an interview.
Yeah, and get to know somebody because you work with them, especially if it's on your senior management team. Yeah. You're going to be working with them closely and yeah, I agree, communication is a huge thing.
And the thing is as well, I think if you're having those conversations, you need to be able to, you know, inform them back as well about your opinion. Yeah. You know, so it will be two-way, and if you really have doubts, you need to tell them what those doubts are and give them the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, and sometimes I think those conversations, sometimes people can avoid them and there's things that go left unsaid which can rear their ugly head. You guys have adapted and Laya Healthcare has adapted very quickly and successfully to this new working world, the way it is at the moment, and working from home. You know, what sort of challenges did that bring to your leadership skills and to your teams?
Yeah, a couple of different things actually. If we mentioned all those crises. One of the things I've learned from all those crises and opportunities is that you can communicate and communicate and communicate, and you'll never communicate enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to keep communicating, and even when you've nothing to say, you have to say it again. Yeah. And that's really the biggest lesson in a way from keeping the team motivated in what they're doing. The other thing is back to the trust. When people started working from home, we had environments where they said you could never work from home. And we started from a place of once it was up and running, we trusted people and we believe they have fulfilled their promise and they have delivered on that. I do think there's a lot of challenges. I mentioned earlier on, there was a survey we did like 6 months ago, and then 6 months, we did one in January again there and did the comparisons. And a bit like myself, my own attitude is changing. Yeah. I kind of felt this time last year when the weather was fine, we had the best April and May we ever had. I was walking the roads, I was doing this and doing that. It was great. But it kind of got tired of it. And when the second lockdown came, there was a different attitude to that. And one of the biggest difference I'm finding now is that people do want to come back to the office. A lot more want to come back to the office. So I think the motivation and the trust and the culture thing is very important, and our challenge now is going to be balancing what happens next.
Yeah, and just get you in to solve the crisis, Mr. Crisis Man.
I don't want to see it.
We just, regarding to the health insurance industry, it kind of comes in and out of having some negative press around pricing. And I think, definitely for probably the consumer, it's maybe not understanding why or what goes into or how it is priced. Can you maybe talk us through, why are health insurance policies subject to price raises, and I guess the benefits of having health insurance?
Well, there's a whole range of different things happening at the moment, but actually if you just take what's happened in the pandemic, one of the amazing things that happened from my point of view is we have this digital strategy and we're looking at trying to get people down to the correct settings and look after their well-being, as well as, when they're unwell, we want to look at them when they're well. And the usage, for example, of a lot of those digital applications like GP Online and all these additional benefits has been phenomenal. When I say they haven't gone up 10, 20%, they've gone up 200, 300%, massive. But that isn't the driving cost, really. That is not the driving cost. With the unit price, if I can call it, and very, very succinct and putting it year on year, is rising. Okay, so what we end up doing is we end up having to price on a underwriting year basis. So we have to anticipate what will happen this year. So for example, last year when we gave back the money and we did a COVID benefit, let's put it that way, and we worked through the payments on those, that was to balance up the underwriting period for last year. But we still have to anticipate what's the bounce back going to cost you for this year. So when you give back 100 million this year, you don't save it from the 100 million last year, to the 100 year this year. And that's really the logic behind it. I probably got too technical there, but on the overarching thing is there is an inflation on the claims inflation, an additional, you've claims inflation and you've frequency. You add the two of them together, and you cannot pay money out that you don't get in. And that's fundamentally it. I think an insurer and a funder like ourselves has to be the advocate for negotiating the price, making sure you're getting value so our customers are getting value.
Yeah, no,
that's a tough ask. No.
I think as well, you're definitely right in the increase in digital healthcare. I've had a Zoom call with a doctor, and I was like, wow, this is a first, but it works. Definitely.
And people were very negative about that, Sarah. If you go back to maybe 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago when we first introduced that, we got amazing pushback, even from the HSE. I remember having really dialectic discussions and being challenged as how dare we think that the GPs can operate online. And I'm delighted to say that they embraced it, and they've embraced a lot of technologies over the last pandemic era, and even I know the ransomware is going on as we have this interview. I have great sympathy for them, and I really admire the way they have embraced the technology in the recent years. But we did get a lot of pushback from a lot of parties on, introducing these consultations online, GP online, physio online, all these wellness programs. We were told we were daft.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's happening.
It's happening, and that's why our strategy now, we're about 3 years ahead on our strategy, so we're scratching our heads here. We're in a current
Pioneers.
cycle again of revising our strategy because we have to bring it forward. So.
And running a healthcare business, what does health or what does well-being mean to you personally?
Well, I felt I was doing really well at the start of it. We'll say on a personal basis, I was doing, for the first 6 months I did well. I'm a mad kayaker, and I'm with the Phoenix Kayak Club in Cork. I have been a kayaker for 30-something years. And the first injury I ever got was last August. I broke my ankle.
No. Oh, no.
And it wasn't kayaking, it was
Ouch.
the end of a kayaking day, and I jumped into the river, which sounds stupid, but anyway, and I broke my ankle. So as a result of that, I was a bit incapacitated. So after having a health check last week and getting over my ankle, which took a good while, I have discovered that, I need to lose a bit of weight and I need to get a bit more healthy.
From COVID.
So this well-being has taken on a different meaning for me lately. So I'm trying to get back into my wellness and fitness space a bit more. I am walking a lot. I think the mental health bit is the bit I would worry about. I do love art. I'm big into painting. I paint all the time and I miss the art galleries and doing things like that. I've discovered podcasts. I've never listened to so many podcasts. I'm listening to Tommy Tiernan and Hector and Larita, and that, I'm listening to all sorts of crimes and things happening and enjoying them, and Talk Art is one of those as well. So from a physical and mental well-being, I'm trying to get my own self back in order. I do know our own team are the biggest users of our wellness program. Yeah, and we've had phenomenal take-up amongst our own team, and a lot of our corporate clients and individual clients are now logging into those. I don't want to make this an editorial, but they have spent considerably above any odds online, looking at these certain things I wouldn't do on a month of Sundays myself, I have to say. So well-being, the mental side and the physical side is very, very up there in my personal agenda and elsewhere as well.
No, I agree completely. Laya Healthcare, you alluded to it earlier, the research that you guys carried out, and I was reading through and I picked out a couple of stats that I found actually quite interesting that I, in a recruitment business, experience and come across conversations with people, and one of the stats was 66% of people have not taken a sick day since the pandemic. 46% of people are actually less satisfied with their role, and then 53% of people feel more productive at home. What are you seeing, as the future of work, having, been at the pinnacle of this research and running a large business?
Well, first of all, time has changed the attitude. If you asked me this question this time last year, I would have said far more wanted to spend the rest of their days at home working. Right now, I think that's changed significantly. Around 36-40% are saying they want to go back to the office full time, which really surprises me.
Wow, that's high, yeah.
Yeah, I do think in our own environment we have a contact centre for a significant amount of people, and they never had the opportunity to work from home, ever. And the fact that that's now working, I think is fantastic. I really think, and people will appreciate that. Again, to the point, I don't think they'll want to do it full time. We had about 100 and something people working from home anyway, full time, but they had grown into that position. They knew what they wanted. They had their environment set up. So I think with that, we're going to have to set up some sort of blended working. Okay, so to the point, not everybody can have Mondays and Fridays at home, mind you, but there's going to have to be a recognition. The other thing I think is going to have to happen, and the traditional way of saying it was hot desking. I don't think people are going to have a desk at home and a desk in the office. I think you're going to have to go in and, whatever you use at home, you're going to have to be able to take with you into the office. Maybe not the screens and everything else, but there should be a fluidity in how it works. Very, very positive, though. In my own head, what was not possible before the pandemic is now possible. That commute you have for an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the evening, does not have to happen if you don't want it to happen. You have opportunities. I don't agree it's a good thing that people should not take their sick days. I think if they're not in the right space, particularly physically or mentally for that matter, you should not be at work. I know myself, for example, with my ankle, with all my talk, loads of people never knew I had a broken ankle, but I was in pain at one stage. You know what I mean? I should have taken a half day or whatever, but nobody even noticed because you're sitting at your on the camera. The other thing that I think has to change from working at home, and I know myself that my calendar just gets filled up now. While traveling, I didn't realize what headspace you get from traveling.
Yeah, I know.
It was lovely to be on the phone talking as I chosen on the way up for this conversation. And it was nice to have the option of turning it off and not having anything scheduled. At the moment, at least my schedule, and I think it's for a lot of people, is 10 o'clock comes, there's another call, 10:30, 11:30, it's just all this, So the discipline, even though I've no reason not to do it right, I'm not doing it right. So I think we'll have to learn that, and what we'll end up with is a mismatch, or a blended working, as they're calling it, or a balanced work environment.
Yeah, that's consensus, definitely, for sure. And you come across personal, and I've dealt with a number of your senior management team, and I know people really buy into you, but and you've led the business through huge change, and do you have this type of personality through all of your business, especially leading multi-million euro deals? Please tell me there's another side to you. Please tell me there's a vicious side.
No, I would say no. People would argue with this. I would be a tough negotiator, and I would definitely walk away.
Yeah, okay.
But I think it's from maybe the background I come from, having
in the hairdressers.
I will walk away from a deal with a smile on my face. I won't hold it against you. I'd get over it very quickly, but I won't do a bad deal either. So I will negotiate tough.
Okay.
I'll also, if there is bad news, it's a tough thing to give it, but I will give it. So I'd like to do it with a smile on my face.
Yeah, okay.
I don't attack people, I hope I don't.
A smiling assassin.
I can see some of those senior managers listening who don't have, but I would generally try to do it in a pleasant way, and I don't think there's a reason, I do think honesty is an interesting thing, and honesty is probably the wrong word, but being upfront helps, I think, if you're just straight up and what impacts me. And I keep going back to the stats about wellness and working from home, and the more I relate it to my own conversations, the better. And I'm talking about how I feel about working from home. When people see that you're vulnerable and that you don't have the answers, it doesn't suit you. And there are days when you're on the phone, you don't want to be. I do these virtual walkarounds because I used to love walking around the office, and because I can't do it now, I will. People can log in, and we can a series of questions or whatever topics they want, whatever. They can be put anonymously or directly, and I'll try to talk through them, or whoever is on appropriately with me on the call talks as well. And a lot of those answers are how I'm feeling, and this doesn't work for me either. I don't know a better way of doing it, but how can we work to get the right answer? If you have a suggestion, I'm open to it, or we're open to it, as the case may be. And people appreciate that.
Yeah, good. And we have 3 fun questions to wrap up our interview. So the first one is, what was the last book you read?
Oh my God.
Or podcast, even seeing as you've switched.
I was going to say Graham Norton, but actually there's a series of murders, the alphabet murders they're called. I read a lot of murders.
Okay.
A lot of them. And I like Mens Rea, which is a podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I love, it's called THL, which is Tommy, it's the latest one I love, right? It's Tommy, Hector, and Larita, and it's really good podcast. Probably, it's rated adult only, I think.
Okay.
Fair enough. And the other one then is Talk Art. I like Talk Art.
And who do you admire most in the world, and why?
Who do I admire most in the world? I should have paid attention to the questions.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, I can tell you who I don't admire as well, which I probably, there are certain, and I don't want to go back to, but there are certain people who've done fantastic, absolutely brilliant things. I actually really like Mary Robinson, and I thought Mary Robinson was in the forefront for loads of different reasons. She was a definite liberal along the way I would think. I loved the way she approached things, even as she was in the United Nations and she was in the Refugee Council, and the way she handled it. And I know she's had a few disappointments lately, I think, and she's just overall a fantastic lady, and how she holds herself in such dignity. I would really admire her.
Brilliant. And final question, if you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 items would you bring? Your art, maybe? Your podcasts?
I'd bring I would bring an easel. That would be good. Ideally, I'd bring a kayak. If you're on an island, a kayak would be good. And I'd probably bring a gin and tonic as well.
So gin and tonic, 2 and 3.
Well, a G&T is one thing. You can't have one without the other. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Not well thought out now, I grant you that. I'll starve in the island.
I know, you'll be back feeling slim. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sarah.